In 1983, a man made a decision that saved millions of lives, maybe even yours. Lieutenant Stanislav Petrov makes a decision based on what he feels right instead of what the rules said or what the screen of the radar displayed. Not many know, but he saved humanity from making a terrible mistake. It's September 26, 1983, and in Serpukhov 15, a Soviet military city located at 70 kilometers from Moscow, is the new control center for the Missile Defense Early Warning Program, consisting of satellites that are used to identify launches of ballistic missiles by detection of their engine's exhaust in infrared light. On duty that day was Stanislav Petrov, and if the USSR was ever attacked with ballistic missiles, then he and his colleagues are the first persons to see this happening. And if the Soviet Union had any chance of striking back before it was destroyed, then early detection and early response was the key for this. Just 3 weeks after the Soviet military had shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007, which caused an international scandal, the radars are showing that the USSR is under attack by a missile that had been launched from the United States, followed by up to 5 more. In those years, the Soviets were convinced that a preventive nuclear strike from the USA was inevitable. Paranoia was installed in all the Soviet leaders' minds, and they were ready to strike back in a moment. In that morning, suddenly, the alarms start sounding that incoming US missiles are detected. On the radar screen, you can read launch, and the next steps are closer to the destruction of Earth. Only a few decades back, the USSR and USA were at the brink of all-out nuclear war, and it was a miracle that it didn't happen. Now, the system that is responsible of detecting incoming missiles is reporting that it has detected the American Minuteman on its path to the Soviet Union. One man is standing between mutual destruction, Lieutenant Stanislav Petrov. He received the news. Just imagine that you have the power to decide the fate of millions of people. In front of you stands the news of your country's destruction and the chance to get revenge on those who did this to you and your family. He decides to go against the rules and follow his instinct, even though the radars are showing 5 incoming missiles from the USA. Lieutenant Stanislav thinks that these warnings are false and does not trigger the alarm, and he waits to confirm his suspicions. If he had triggered an alarm, the protocol stated that the next step in this chain was, if the leaders in Moscow decided, the launch of the Soviet missiles as a response to the attack. After the incident, the investigation has stated that indeed the satellite system had released a false alarm. At first, the system displayed on the radar 1 incoming missile, but after another scan, it showed 5 nuclear missiles headed towards the USSR. Lieutenant Petrov found himself in an unprecedented situation. If he would have reported what the system was displaying, the Soviet nuclear doctrine would have probably retaliated with the destruction of a large part of the USA and the loss of millions of lives. Only a few months earlier, President Reagan has announced the Ussr defense strategy named Star Wars, which was a plan to destroy incoming Soviet missiles before they hit the Ussr territory. The USA was in the process of moving nuclear Pershing II missiles in West Germany, so Petrov had all the reasons to believe that the US was indeed attacking the Soviet Union. Petrov consulted with his team, and they all decided that what the system was displaying was actually a false alarm. And they were right. Petrov managed to avoid a war between the USSR, which had approximately 35,000 nuclear warheads, and the USA, which also had around 23,000. If this war had ever took place, it would have undoubtedly been the most bloody in human history. In the 70s, a US study has shown that a Soviet nuclear attack on the US could kill somewhere around 80 to 180 million humans, and that a US counterattack would have cost the Soviets around 54 to 108 million people. His subsequent decision to disobey orders, against Soviet military protocol, is credited with having prevented an erroneous retaliatory nuclear attack on the United States and its NATO allies that could have resulted in a large-scale nuclear war which could have wiped out half of the population of the countries involved. An investigation later confirmed that the Soviet satellite warning system had indeed malfunctioned. Because of his decision not to launch a retaliatory nuclear strike amid this incident, Petrov is often credited as having saved the world. The incident exposed a serious flaw in the Soviet early warning system. Petrov has said that he was neither rewarded nor punished for his actions. It was subsequently determined that the false alarm had been created by a rare alignment of sunlight on high-altitude clouds above North Dakota, an error later corrected by cross-referencing a geostationary satellite. Petrov later indicated that the influences on his decision included that he had been told a U.S. strike would be all out, so 5 missiles seemed an illogical start, that the launch detection system was new and, in his view, not yet wholly trustworthy, that the message passed through 30 layers of verification too quickly, and that ground radar failed to pick up corroborating evidence, even after minutes of delay. However, in a 2013 interview, Petrov said at the time he was never sure that the alarm was erroneous. He thought that his civilian training helped him make the right decision. He said that his colleagues were all professional soldiers with purely military training and, following instructions, would have reported a missile launch if they had been on his shift. Petrov underwent intense questioning by his superiors about his judgment. Initially, he was praised for his decision. General Yuri Votintsev, then commander of the Soviet Air Defense's missile defense units, who was the first to hear Petrov's report of the incident, and the first to reveal it to the public in the 1990s, states that Petrov's correct actions were duly noted. He received no reward. According to Petrov, this was because the incident and other bugs found in the missile detection system embarrassed his superiors and the scientists who were responsible for it, so that if he had been officially rewarded, they would have had to be punished. He was reassigned to a less sensitive post and took an early retirement. During a visit to the United States for the filming of the documentary The Man Who Saved the World, Petrov toured in May 2007 the Minuteman Missile National Historic Site and, having retired from USSR military, commented, he would never have imagined being able to visit one of the enemy's securest sites. Petrov died on the 19th of May 2017 from hypostatic pneumonia, though it was not widely reported until September. He was 77 years old.